I used to think my neighbor was just lonely. Now when I close my eyes, I can still hear the sounds emanating from within those trash bags shifting. My name is Dylan, I'm 19, and last summer I stayed with my older cousin in a small town in Oregon. It was one of those quiet streets where every house looked the same and you could hear sprinklers hissing at night. Our next-door neighbor was a man named Mr. Hanley. Mr. Hanley was in his late 50s, always wore the same gray jacket and was consistently polite. He nodded, said evening, and went back inside. He was the kind of neighbor that people referred to as harmless. The first strange thing I noticed was the trash bags. Every Thursday morning, the whole street pushed their bins to the curb. Everyone except him, but his side yard had piles of black bags stacked behind the fence. At first, I thought he just forgot to take them out. Then weeks passed. The pile grew. The smell followed. One night, I was sitting on the porch scrolling on my phone when I heard it. A soft, dull thump from his side yard, then another, then a sound I can't forget, like someone dragging their hand along plastic from the inside. I told my cousin. She just rolled her eyes. "Dylan, he's weird, not dangerous. Mind your own business." Maybe I would have if I hadn't seen the missing poster. A few days later, I was at the local grocery store. Near the door was a taped-up flyer, "Missing. Emma Torres, 14 Emma Torres was last seen walking home on Maple Lane." Maple Lane was our street. The date was from 3 weeks earlier, 3 weeks just about when I started noticing those trash bags. I tried to ignore it. I really did. But once you start connecting dots, your brain doesn't stop. Mr. Hanley only went out at night. He always checked up and down the street before he stepped off his porch. And sometimes, around 2 or 3 a.m., I heard his back gate creak open, followed by the soft drag of heavy plastic. One night, curiosity finally won. My cousin was on the night shift at the hospital, so I was alone. I turned off all the lights and peeked through the living room window that faced Hanley's driveway. He came out at 2:17 a.m. I remember the time because I kept staring at my phone to calm myself down. He wasn't wearing his usual jacket. He was wearing only a stained white t-shirt and rubber gloves. He rolled a large black bag out of his garage. Not carried, rolled. It seemed as if the bag was too heavy for him to lift. He stopped halfway down his driveway, looked straight at our house, and just stared. My heart slammed in my chest. I was sure he'd seen me. I pressed myself flat on the floor, breathing so quietly my chest hurt. After what felt like forever, I heard the bag drag again, then the side gate creak. He'd taken it to the backyard, not to the curb. The next day I couldn't take it. When my cousin left for work, I hopped the fence into his side yard. The stink hit me like a wall, sweet, sour, rotting. Flies buzzed around the bags. I touched one with the tip of my shoe. It wasn't full of random trash, it was solid. Heavy. I was turning to jump back when I heard a tiny sound. The sound came from the bag closest to me. The sound was a muffled, broken sob. I froze. The world went silent. Then I heard it again. A whimper. A small hand pressed against the inside of the plastic, pushing out the shape of fingers for a second before going still. I ran, I didn't think, didn't breathe, and just launched myself over the fence and straight into our kitchen. My hands shook as I called 911. "He has someone in the bags," I stammered. "I heard them, please, he has someone in there." The police arrived faster than I expected. The police arrived first in 2 cars, followed by another one. They went straight to his door. No answer. They didn't wait. They broke the lock, walked in, and within seconds, one of the officers shouted for backup. Later, I saw everything from our window. They cut open the bags. Not all of them had movement. Most were still. They pulled out things you only see in nightmares: clothes, hair, bones, and pieces of what used to be people. They found 3 runaways reported in nearby cities, and 1 girl still alive. Her name was Emma. She'd been missing for 3 weeks. She came out wrapped in a blanket, eyes sunken, lips cracked, and hands trembling. She kept repeating the same thing over and over. He said he was keeping us where no one could hurt us. They never found Mr. Hanley. He slipped out the back somehow and vanished between houses before the first car pulled up. We moved out a month later. I still see black trash bags differently now. When I take my trash bags to the curb, I can't help but listen for one last whimper from inside, for one last whimper from inside. If I had just listened to my friend and stayed home, I wouldn't be afraid of my living room now. He was sitting there before I ever let him in. My name is Leela. I'm 24 and I thought I was smart about online dating. I never shared my address. I always met in public first. I checked profiles, reverse searched photos, all of that. Then I met Noah. He messaged me on an app one night. His pictures looked normal: jeans, hoodie, walks in the park. His bio was simple: teacher, introvert. He has a passion for reading and enjoys taking long walks, looking for something real. He wasn't handsome like a model, but he looked kind. His messages were thoughtful, not creepy. He asked about my job, my family, and my favorite movies. He remembered little things I said. For 3 weeks, we talked every night. He said he lived about 30 minutes away. He said he taught middle school. He sent me photos of his classroom. When he asked to meet in person, I felt comfortable, safe even. We agreed to meet at a busy cafe downtown. I got there early, nervous and excited. He texted, "We are running 10 minutes late. Grab a table." Grinning face with sweat, I ordered a latte, picked a corner seat and waited. 10 minutes passed, then 20. I texted again. "Are you still coming?" No reply. I checked the app. Our chat was gone. His profile, user not found. I felt stupid and embarrassed. Just another ghosting story. I finished my drink and went home, annoyed more than scared. That night I tried to forget about it. I microwaved leftovers, put on a show, and curled up on the couch. Around 10:30 p.m., my phone lit up with an unknown number. "Sorry, I was dealing with an urgent matter. Are you mad?" I stared at the message. "Who is this?" "No, a new number. I really wanted to see you tonight." I should have blocked him. Instead, I typed, "You could have at least told me." We argued a bit. Then he started saying all the right things again. I was scared you'd think I'm a loser. "I haven't been on a date in a long time. Can I make it up to you another night?" I was worn out. "Maybe," I wrote. "Not tonight." I put my phone on the coffee table and went to the kitchen to wash my plate. When I came back, there was a new message. "You look adorable when you're mad." I froze. I was alone in my apartment. I hadn't sent him any pictures that day. "How do you know what I look like right now?" I typed. Dots appeared, disappeared, then the reply came. "I like the yellow sweater." I like it. I was wearing a yellow sweater. My heart dropped into my stomach. I slowly looked at the dark TV screen. The glass showed a faint reflection of the room behind me: my couch, my bookshelf, the window, and something else. A shape: someone sitting in the shadowed armchair in the corner, the chair I never used. I turned around so fast I nearly fell. The armchair was empty. My hands shook as I typed. "This isn't funny. How do you know what I'm wearing?" "Don't turn around so fast next time," he replied. "You almost knocked the lamp over." My eyes snapped to the lamp by the armchair. It was slightly tilted. I hadn't touched it all day. I grabbed my keys and bolted for the door, but the chain was already locked. I never used the chain. Someone had slid it into place. I fumbled it open with shaking fingers, ran out into the hallway, and banged on my neighbor's door until she answered, half asleep. "What's wrong?" "He's inside my apartment," I gasped. "Someone's inside. Please call the police." The officers arrived. 2 of them went into my place while I stood in the hallway hugging myself. Every second felt like an hour. Finally, they came back. "No one's inside," one said. "We checked every room, every closet, under the bed." I felt like I was losing my mind. But he texted what I'm wearing. He mentioned the lamp. The chain was on. The younger officer looked around my door frame. "Ma'am, there's a small camera here." I followed his gaze. Barely visible, tucked into the top corner of the doorframe, was a tiny black lens. They found 2 more in the living room, one in the smoke detector and one disguised as a fake screw in the bookshelf. My skin crawled. On my coffee table next to my phone was something else I hadn't noticed. A folded piece of paper. They opened it with gloves. Inside was a single printed photo. It was me, taken from outside through my window. I was on the couch in my yellow sweater, face half lit by the TVO and the back. One sentence was written in neat handwriting. "I liked you better when you didn't know I was here." They never found Noah. The photos he'd sent were stolen from some random guy's social media. He was not employed as a teacher. The information provided was not authentic. Burner phone, fake name. But somewhere out there, there's a man who knows exactly what my living room looks like in the dark. And occasionally, when my phone lights up with an unknown number, I wonder if he's still watching. The real estate agent called it a cozy fixer-upper. She forgot to mention the room full of shoes. I'm Mark, 28, and last year I thought I'd finally beaten the system. I found a big old house on the edge of a small town in Kansas for a price that felt like a typo. 3 bedrooms, a giant yard, a detached garage, and a basement. It belonged to an older man, the agent said. No family, passed away peacefully. The bank just wants it off their hands. I should have asked more questions. The house smelled like dust and lemon cleaner. The walls were stained here and there, but nothing a coat of paint couldn't fix. I walked from room to room imagining where my furniture would go. The basement is unfinished, she warned. Nothing special, just storage space. We went down creaky wooden steps. The air got colder with each step, the kind of cold that sinks into your bones. The basement was one big open room, cement floor, bare bulbs, old shelves, nothing special. We did the paperwork. I moved in. For a few nights, everything was fine. I stacked boxes in one corner of the basement, told myself I'd organize later, and focused on setting up the upstairs. But every night around 1 a.m. I heard it. A soft, repetitive thud from somewhere below, not pipes, not the fridge. It sounded like light footsteps. I told myself it was the house settling. Old wood, weird sounds, normal thing. Then I found the door. It was my 4th night there. I'd gone to the basement to look for my toolbox. My flashlight beam swept across dusty shelves, cobwebbed corners, an old water heater, and then it hit a line in the wall, a thin, straight outline, something that looked a lot like a door. It was almost invisible, painted the same color as the concrete wall with no handle. But up close I could see a thin keyhole. My heart picked up. Why would the old man hide a door down here? I didn't have the key, but this was my house now. I grabbed a flathead screwdriver, wedged it into the keyhole, and twisted until the lock clicked. The door opened a few inches on its own, like something inside had been waiting. A smell rolled out, stale air, sweat, and something else I couldn't name. I lifted my flashlight. There were no windows in the hidden room. Just 4 concrete walls and shelves stacked from floor to ceiling, lined with rows of shoes, not pairs, single shoes, all kinds, a child's light-up sneaker, a red high heel with a broken strap, a muddy work boot, a delicate white sandal. Some were brand new, some were worn down, the soles almost gone. In the corner was a narrow bed. The mattress was stained. The blanket was stiff. The air felt thick. My instinct screamed at me to close the door and pretend I'd never seen it. But my flashlight beam caught something else on the wall above the bed. Lines, dozens of straight lines scratched into the concrete, grouped in 5s, tally marks, more than I could count at a glance. I backed out, heart racing, and slammed the door shut. That night the thudding from below started again, but this time it didn't sound like footsteps. It sounded like someone knocking from inside the hidden room. I barely slept. In the morning I went straight to the police station. I told them about the hidden room, the shoes, and the marks on the wall. The officer on duty raised an eyebrow but agreed to come check. The 2 of us went down to the basement. I pointed at the wall. "It's behind that door," he frowned. "What door?" The outline was gone, no seam, no keyhole, just solid concrete. My mouth went dry. "I swear it was right here." He knocked on the wall. "Solid." He shone his flashlight across it. "Nothing. Probably just shadows and nerves," he said kindly. "Old houses do that to people." He left. I stayed in the basement, staring at the wall for a long time. That night the knocking came again, louder, longer. I put a pillow over my head, but it didn't help. The knocks turned into pounding, then into scratching, like nails scraping concrete. "Stop," I whispered to no one. "Please just stop." The next morning there was dust on the basement floor in the shape of footprints, small ones, like a child had walked from the wall to the stairs. I listed the house for sale the following week. I didn't tell the new owners about the knocking. I didn't tell them about the shoes. Now I live in an apartment with no basement. But sometimes, late at night, I swear I hear it again. A faint tap beneath my floor, like someone is still counting days in a room that doesn't officially exist. If that old man hadn't grabbed my arm and whispered, "Leave before the siren," I swear I would have died in that forgotten town. My name is Lauren, I'm 25, and last winter I took a solo road trip to clear my mind after a terrible breakup. I drove through small towns, stayed in cheap motels, and ate at diners where the waitresses called me sweetheart. It felt freeing, then my GPS glitched. I turned onto a narrow county road somewhere in rural Montana, and before I knew it, the sun was dropping fast and the signal vanished completely. My tank was low, my phone had 12% battery, and both directions behind me looked the same. Just empty fields and cold wind. After driving another 10 minutes, I finally saw it, a tiny town with a sign so faded I could barely read it. "Welcome to Briar Ridge, population 191. The place looked frozen in time, rusty trucks. The area was filled with old wooden houses. The gas station boasts an ancient pump. Only a few chimneys were emitting smoke, but something felt wrong. Nobody was outside. There was not a single person outside. And it was only 5:30 p.m. I parked at the gas station and stepped inside. A bell above the door rang softly. Behind the counter was a woman in her 50s, tightening her jaw like she was holding back anger. "Pump number 2, I said. She stared at me like I wasn't supposed to be there. "You're not from here," she said flatly. "No, just passing through." Her eyes darted to the window, then to the clock on the wall. 5:37 p.m. "You need to go," she whispered suddenly. I blinked. What?" She leaned forward, serious. "Leave immediately before the siren." "What siren?" She didn't answer. She just ran my card, shoved the receipt into my hand, and rushed to the door. She locked it from the inside. I filled my tank as fast as I could, and that's when I saw him. An older man across the street, standing behind a broken fence, waving me over frantically. His face was pale, eyes wide with panic. I hesitated. He waved harder. "Please," he mouthed silently. Against my better judgment, I crossed the street. Before I could speak, he grabbed my wrist with surprising strength. "You shouldn't be here," he rasped. "Sundown is for them, not for people like us." "What are you talking about?" I whispered, my heart pounding. His voice shook. "They come out after the siren. They smell outsiders, they hunt us first." I pulled my hand back, terrified. "Who comes out?" He swallowed hard. "The hollow ones." A gust of freezing wind hit us. Behind him, his curtain moved, like someone inside his house was watching. "Go," he urged. "Drive, don't look back, and whatever you do, don't stop for anyone." The streetlights flickered on, humming. The sky darkened to deep blue. Then, from somewhere on the far edge of the town, I heard it, a siren, low, long, bone-shaking. The old man's face drained of color. "It's too late," he whispered. Windows slammed, lights switched off, doors locked. The entire town shut down in seconds, like they were hiding from something they knew was coming. I ran to my car, hands shaking so badly I dropped my keys twice. As soon as I got in, I locked the doors. The siren ended, silence, then movement. At the far end of the street, a tall figure stepped out from between two houses, then another, and another, too thin, too long, too fast. Their heads tilted at sickening angles, like their necks had been broken but they could still move. My breath fogged the windshield as one of them crept closer. It sniffed the air like it could smell me. I ducked low, barely breathing. The creature stepped into the light, and its face wasn't a face at all. Just stretched gray skin with no eyes, just holes, two deep, empty holes where eyes should have been. It lifted its head toward my car and let out a slow, rattling breath that tasted the air. "No, no, no, no." I manually turned the key, but my engine coughed, didn't start. Again, nothing. The hollow ones twitched at the sound, sharp, rapid jerks of their heads. One of them sprinted toward me so unnaturally and swiftly I screamed. My engine roared to life at the exact second its hand slammed into the trunk, denting the metal like it was paper. I floored it. My tires squealed. The road blurred. Shadows moved in the corners of my eyes, 3, maybe 4 of them chasing the car. One leaped. Its fingers scraped the rear window. Then suddenly the road curved and the creatures slipped out of view. I didn't stop for nearly an hour, not until I reached a highway with streetlights, cars, and normal life. The next morning I tried finding Briar Ridge again. The gas station, the houses, the sign, though faded, still stands. Nothing, just woods. There was a dirt road that led to nowhere. But that night when I went to throw something in my trunk, I saw it. A print, a long, bony handprint pressed deep into the metal where something had grabbed me. The same handprint from Briar Ridge, a town the map says never existed. The first thing my new neighbor ever said to me was, "You finally moved back." The problem was I had never been there before. My name is Jordan, I'm 23, and last year I moved into a small apartment building in Colorado after graduating college. All I desired was a quiet area, affordable rent, and a decent neighborhood. My apartment was 2C, the one across from me was 2B, and that's where he lived. The man insisted he already knew me. The day I moved in, I was carrying boxes up the stairs when the door to 2B opened. He stepped out, mid-40s, gray hoodie, glasses, messy hair, the type of guy who looked like he lived alone and preferred it that way. But he smiled when he saw me, not a friendly smile, he wore a knowing smile. "There you are," he said quietly. Do we know each other?" I asked. His smile widened. "You always joked about forgetting people. Guess you forgot me too." My stomach tight. I'd never seen him before. I brushed him off and went inside. But when I closed my door, I could hear him humming softly in the hallway, a slow, familiar tune. I didn't understand why it felt familiar. The next few weeks, every time I left my apartment, he was there. He was always present, standing in his doorway, sitting on the stairs. He leaned against the wall for support. He always said the same thing, "Back again," or "Leaving already," or "You used to smile more." It creeped me out, but I figured he was just a lonely older guy. Until the night I found the first note. The note on my door, it was taped to my door when I came home from work. Neat handwriting. "You're acting strange. We used to talk every night in the hall." I ripped it down and went straight to 2B. He answered instantly, like he'd been waiting. "Why are you leaving notes on my door?" I snapped. His confusion was real, or he performed it perfectly. "I didn't write you anything," he said gently. Lie. He stepped back and pointed around his apartment. "Do you see a pen, paper, anything?" His place was almost empty. There was only a couch, a lamp, and a table. "No," he said softly. "See, you're confused again." Again, that word made my skin crawl. I walked away. But I didn't sleep. Things escalate the next night. Someone knocked on my door at 2:14 a.m. 3 taps, slow, deliberate. I looked through the peephole. Nothing. But when I opened my door, another note was stuck there. "You said you'd never forget me. Why are you pretending?" I felt sick. I went straight to the building manager the next morning. She frowned. "Nobody else on your floor has complained. Apartment 2B hasn't filed anything." I leaned in. "The guy in 2B is stalking me." She blinked. 2B, honey, no one's lived in 2B for months." My heart dropped. "No, the guy, the one who keeps talking to me. He told me his name is Michael." She shook her head. "We changed the locks. It's vacant. Want to see for yourself?" I followed her upstairs. She unlocked 2B. The door swung open, empty, dusty, no furniture, no lamp, no couch, nothing. But the worst part, on the far wall were dozens of tally marks. They were arranged in groups of 5, and beneath them, Jordan 47 days. Me blood turned to ice. "How?" I whispered. The manager shrugged. "Homeless people sometimes slip in, but there's no one living here now. I'll change the lock again." I went back to my apartment shaking. Maybe I was losing my mind. The real nightmare begins that night. As I lay in bed trying to convince myself it was all in my head, I heard humming, the same slow tune the man in 2B always hummed. It was coming from the vent above my bed. My breath froze. I climbed on a chair, put my ear to the vent, and heard him whisper, "I told you you'd come back." I screamed and fell backward, crashing into my dresser. My phone slipped from my hand. By the time I grabbed it with shaking fingers, the humming had stopped. I slept with the lights on. The steps in my living room. 2 nights later, I woke up to footsteps. The footsteps were coming from inside my apartment, slow ones. It sounded like someone was walking barefoot on my carpet. I grabbed my phone and hid behind my bed. My throat was so tight I couldn't even whisper. The footsteps stopped. Silence flooded the apartment. Then a shadow passed under my bedroom door. Someone was standing right outside it. The doorknob turned slowly, then stopped, and a soft voice whispered, "You always locked this door when you were scared." I felt cold all over. My shaking hands dialed 911. The operator answered. But before I could speak, I heard another sound, paper sliding under my bedroom door. When the police arrived, the door was still locked. No one was in the living room, the kitchen, or the bathroom. But they found the note under my door, same handwriting. The tone remained calm throughout. I missed you every day you were gone. I'm glad you're home again. I moved out the next morning, changed my number. I blocked all social media accounts. I thought it was over. 1 month later, my new place was bright, clean, and safe until yesterday. When I checked my mailbox, there was a letter with no return address. Inside was a single S. A sheet of paper, the same handwriting. The tone remained calm throughout. Nice apartment. Love the windows. I like watching you unpack. See you again soon. My knees nearly buckled at the bottom in tiny handwriting. You always come back to me, Jordan. The mother told me her baby cried only at night. She forgot to mention the part where the baby wasn't the one crying. My name is Harper, I'm 20, and I babysit to pay for college. I've worked with dozens of families, loud kids, spoiled kids, sweet kids. Nothing surprises me anymore, at least that's what I thought, until I took a job on Linden Street. It was a Thursday evening when I got a call from a woman named Mrs. Vale. Her voice was soft, rushed, and almost desperate. I need someone urgently, she said, just for a few hours tonight. I hesitated. Last-minute jobs were usually trouble, but the pay was double my usual rate. Is it just one child? I asked. Just my son, she replied quickly. He's 6 months old, quiet, easy usually. Her pause unsettled me, but I agreed. The house on Linden Street, her home, was beautiful, big porch, fresh paint, spotless yard, too perfect. When she opened the door, she looked exhausted, skin pale, hands trembling slightly. You're Harper, thank you for coming. No problem, I said. Where's the baby? She led me down the hallway to a nursery. The baby Oliver was asleep in a crib, peaceful, perfect. But the nursery was strange. There were locks on the inside of the windows, extra bolts on the door, and an old baby monitor with 2 cameras instead of 1. Mrs. Vale noticed me staring. He's a light sleeper, she whispered. Then she handed me a list of rules. Do not open the curtains. Do not pick him up unless he is fully awake. If he cries, check the monitor first. Do not let anyone inside the house. Call me immediately if he stops crying suddenly. I frowned. What does that last one mean? She looked at me for a long time. Just follow the rules. Her makeup couldn't hide the fear in her eyes. Then she rushed out the door. 10:07 p.m. The first cry for the first hour. Everything was normal. I watched TV, ate the cookies she left out, scrolled on my phone. Then the baby monitor crackled, and a baby began to wail, a sharp, panicked cry that cut straight into my bones. I grabbed the monitor, expecting to see Oliver sitting up. But instead, he was still asleep, completely asleep, yet the crying echoed through the speakers. My skin prickled. I checked the hallway, silent, no crying, but the monitor still screaming. I walked to the nursery, heart pounding. When I opened the door, Oliver slept quietly, but the crying on the monitor grew louder, impossible. I stepped closer to the crib. The crying suddenly stopped. Rule 5, call me immediately if he stops crying suddenly. My phone vibrated. Unknown number. I answered with shaking hands. A low voice whispered, "Why did you open the door?" I froze. Mrs. Vale. The line went dead. 10:46 p.m. Footsteps. I sat on the couch, hugging a pillow, staring at the baby monitor. Another noise began. Slow, heavy footsteps coming from upstairs, but the only thing upstairs was the nursery. I grabbed the monitor. Camera 1 showed Oliver sleeping. Camera 2 showed the corner of the nursery near the closet, and something else, a shadow, tall still, facing the crib. I nearly dropped the monitor. Someone was in the nursery. I called out, "Who's up there?" No answer. I ran toward the stairs, but halfway up the crying started again. But now it wasn't coming from the monitor. It was coming from downstairs. Behind me, I turned slowly. The front door was cracked open. A dark shape stood in the doorway, hunched and swaying. I gasped and stumbled back up the stairs. The shape stepped inside the house. 11:02 p.m. Two babies. I sprinted to the nursery and slammed the door behind me. Oliver slept through everything, calm as ever. Then something impossible happened. The baby monitor, both cameras, lit up with movement. On camera 1, Oliver was awake and screaming. On camera 2, Oliver was asleep in the crib. Two Olivers, two babies, one crying, one silent. I froze. I didn't know which one was real. Then the closet door creaked open. Something crawled out, not walked, crawled, a pale, thin creature with long fingers and black eyes too large for its face. Its mouth hung open, stretching wider and wider until the jaw cracked. It looked exactly like baby Oliver, but older, bigger. Wrong. The creature let out a cry, the same one from the monitor. I understood the rules now. The crying wasn't to comfort the baby. It was to warn the mother. Something else cried like him. Something else wanted to be him. 11:11 p.m. The real Oliver. The creature dragged itself toward the crib, toward the real Oliver. I grabbed a metal lamp and swung with everything I had. The creature shrieked. Its skin split like thin paper. It lunged at me but slipped on the hardwood floor, writhing like something half human, half animal. I scooped the real Oliver out of the crib and backed against the wall. The creature lunged again, but the nursery door burst open. Mrs. Vale stood there with a long silver rod in her hands. "Move," she yelled. She stabbed the rod into the creature's chest. The thing screamed a monstrous, choking sound and began to crumble into ash. The room went silent. Oliver whimpered softly in my arms. I handed him back, shaky. Mrs. Vale sank to the floor, crying. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I hoped it wouldn't come back tonight." "What was that?" I asked. She wiped her tears. "A mimic," she said softly. "They copy the sound of a child and then try to replace them." Replace. I nearly vomited. "How long has this been happening?" "Since the day he was born." Her voice cracked. "That wasn't the first one, just the closest." 1:03 a.m. Leaving the house, I left right after the police came. Though Mrs. Vale told them it was an intruder and nothing more. As I got into my car, she whispered, "If you hear a baby crying outside your window, don't look, don't answer, it's never a baby." I drove home shaking. That night, as I sat on my bed replaying everything, a baby cried outside my apartment, soft, broken, familiar. I turned off the lights, closed the blinds, covered my ears, but the crying grew louder, and then it started knocking on my door.